The number of people known to have died in the Los Angeles wildfires has risen to 24. With high winds forecast over the coming days, fire crews are now facing a race against time to avert further destruction. But from the ashes, many remarkable stories are rising as people battle to stop their neighbourhoods from burning down. Our correspondent Helena Humphrey has this report.
Oh, my house.
For 36 years, fighting fires was Rich Snyder's profession. Now retired, when flames tore through his community in Pasadena, it was personal. Armed with a hose and with his bare hands, suddenly he wasn't just saving strangers. He was saving his neighbours and their homes.
Lord, help us. Lord, with your hands.
Whether it was divine intervention or Rich's sheer determination, their lives were saved. Among them, a neighbour with additional needs, confused amid the chaos.
No, Greg, your house is on fire. Your house, Greg, you have to come with me.
I've still got to process it. Yeah, my neighbor needs assistance, and we told him early on to leave. And he said, no, I'll stay. And I grabbed him and I was pulling on him and he was fighting me because he was going to go back in his burning house and lock the door. You know, we got him out and we looked back and his house was fully involved.
Across LA County, some 60 square miles of land, now scorched earth. Firefighters have gained ground against the two largest blazes, the Palisades and Eaton fires. But the devastation left behind is staggering.
This is Malibu. Normally you wouldn't be able to see the Pacific Ocean from here, but all of those multi-million-dollar mansions are gone. It is destruction as far as the eye can see, and the road to recovery will be long.
And with forecasters warning that the fierce Santa Ana winds could return, the battle is far from over. Residents in the fire's path face a cruel waiting game, fearing that the nightmare will strike again.
I am terrified because if it does change, I actually don't know where I would go, to be honest. Like, I don't have family here. I have friends, but they're all affected. So I don't have a set plan in mind, and it's terrifying.
Amid the terror, a political storm brews. President-elect Donald Trump has criticised what he calls incompetent California politicians for the crisis. In just over a week, it will be one he inherits.
Is the incoming president expected to come here?
I believe so.
What awaits Donald Trump, if he comes, may reveal an even bleaker reality than what is known so far, as the number of missing continues to grow. Helena Humphrey, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, former California legislator and LA resident Mike Gatto told us anger is mounting at how the authorities have reacted.
There's a lot of anger here. I'm not going to lie to you. I am a Democrat. California is a state that is run by Democrats. There's a lot of voters here who are Democrats. But more and more, I am hearing quite a bit of rage from people who live in Los Angeles at our Democratic elected officials. The common phrase that's going around is that this was 50% weather and 50% incompetence. It's things like the response time, the preparation, did we heed the warnings? Angelinos, just to give you a sense of things, the other day we all got a frantic notice on our cell phones that said you need to evacuate. Just about everybody in this county of 10 million thought that their house was on fire or their street was on fire. It turned out to be a false alarm. They announced it was a false alarm, and then a few hours later we got another evacuation notice that was another false alarm. And so, just things like that don't really impart much trust with authorities. If you can't listen to the evacuation notices and it becomes the boy who cries wolf, people are going to die because they're going to ignore the next one.
Well, KJ Matthews, a journalist in LA, told us what she's been doing to help her neighbours as thousands have lost their belongings and their homes.
I'll be honest with you. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. And so this is scary. This is my hometown. This is the town that raised me. And to see all the people, many that I know, that have been displaced, either they have lost their home completely and they're homeless, or there's been damage to their home and their area has been evacuated and it's just untenable. They can't move right back in until repairs are made. So to see that, and then every day you're waking up and you're hoping that today is the day that all the fires will be put out, and that's not the case. And the winds either die down or they pick back up. Over this weekend, I was lucky enough to have the winds die down a bit so that I can get out and donate. I've always wanted to donate the last couple of days, but I was a little bit afraid because they had more evacuations going on, particularly in the San Fernando Valley. And so I didn't want to drive in that area. I didn't want to be an impediment to the hardworking firefighters that were trying to put out the fires. So I waited until the weekend, and I was able to donate to a lot of teenage girls that lived in the Eaton area where the Altadena and Pasadena fires have been happening, and was just able to get out there and to deliver, shoes and socks and clothing and toothpaste and toothbrush and just things that they need, because many of them that left their homes, they thought they would be back in like 3 days, and then they came back and they have nothing.
We can speak to our correspondent David Willis, who is in Brentwood in LA for us live. So, David, we've been hearing the news of the further winds that could hamper the firefighters' tasks. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
That's right. And just to bring you up to speed, it is, just after 1 o'clock in the morning here. And as you can see behind me, a curfew is in place on the outskirts of Brentwood, the latest upmarket enclave to find itself in the crosshairs of the worst disaster in California's history. Evacuation orders are in place around here, and the power is out all around us in this part of Sunset Boulevard after winds picked up over the weekend, and those winds are expected to gain in strength over the course of the next 3 days to hurricane force in places, and that's prompted officials here to declare that the evacuation orders will remain in place until Thursday morning at the earliest before they are lifted, to obviously the chagrin of many here who've been displaced from their homes and are very anxious to get back there to see what, if anything, remains of their homes and their belongings. And a little earlier on, it was revealed that cadaver dogs have been brought in to help with the search for human remains in the worst affected areas of these fires. And the LA Coroner's Office has revealed that 24 people are now known to have died in these fires, with 16 people still missing. That death toll is almost certain to rise.
You mentioned those displaced people. Where are they, David? And are they getting the food, the shelter, the help that they need at this time?
Well, there are about 9 separate evacuation centers that have been set up around Los Angeles, funded by church groups and other community organizations. Some people have gone there. Others have housed themselves in hotels. Airbnb is offering some sort of dispensation to people who can't afford their normal prices. And there are those, of course, who have moved out of town completely, some to relatives in other states, and some perhaps to seek a new life away from the sort of threat that these fires can pose. It's going to be a massive rebuilding operation, and I think there's quite a few people who won't have the stomach for it.
The curfew you mentioned, can you just explain, David, why that's in place?
It's basically to prevent people who may want to come back into the evacuation zones, possibly to steal or loot, from being able to do so. There were reports of looting in the first few days of this disaster, and as a result, the National Guard officers who've been, you can see behind me perhaps, have been drafted in, hundreds of them, to help the police secure these areas and make sure that people who've gone through one tragedy don't have to endure a second such tragedy.
David Willis in Brentwood in LA, thank you.